Here follows an extract from my book Artful Designs, available from Amazon. Chapter 3, Part 1. In the reception area of the Whitworth, tension was obviously bubbling very close to the surface of Theo's superficial pleasantries. His usual charm was coming to the fore as he ostensibly welcomed a motley group of dishevelled teenagers who were loitering in studied languid poses, hoodies drawn over their heads. Earlier that morning, Drew had decided that the photograph he'd taken of a Constable cloud watercolour study was too blurred for his presentation at the WI that night, and he'd hurried to the gallery to take another shot. Scott had arrested Drew's attention as soon as he'd entered the building and was now giving him desperately pleading glances. Unsure of what he'd just walked into, Drew got straight to the heart of the matter. I thought that the gallery was closed to the public whilst the building work is ongoing. Have I missed a party? Drew, let me introduce you to some of Scott's chums, said Theo. He pronounced the word chums with a special tinge of disdain, only perceptible to those who knew him well. All that the gang would have heard was Theo's boyish charm. Let me see if I can remember the names of these gents. If I get stuck, then I know that Scott will help me out. Scott flinched at the mention of his name. It was as though he'd been physically struck. Everybody knew that Theo held Scott responsible for this unwelcome intrusion and that he'd pay for it later one way or another. It seems that Scott has been enthusing about the work that we do here, so much so that his good friends couldn't keep themselves away any longer. Finn here has decided to take all of his friends' education in hand and has enforced an art history tour on us and his pals. He's quite insistent that they need to learn some culture. Here Theo glanced at the group's obvious ringleader. Leighton and Brad have consented to be subjected to the curriculum. He introduced each gangly, greasy-haired youth in turn, proving that his flair for retaining names and faces hadn't yet left him. Drew said hello and shook each hand in turn. The gesture was obviously unfamiliar to the lads, and proceedings took on the aspect of a pantomime. I'm here on a flying visit to rephotograph a Constable, he explained. Excellent, said Theo. You can begin the show by telling these eager chaps a bit about Constable. It's a pity they can't come to your little talk tonight, though maybe it really isn't their scene. At this point he roared with laughter. The thought of these delinquents sitting in on a WI talk about art history was an hilarious incongruity and was just suited to Theo's abstract sense of humour. It was bizarre that they were in the gallery at all. Come on then, said Drew. I've got a few minutes. Let's go and have a look. He strode off along the corridor, leaving Finn and his crew to shuffle along behind. Once Scott had recovered his senses, he scurried to catch Drew up. What am I going to do? Theo's going to kill me now for sure, but it isn't my fault at all. Scott looked utterly desperate. I hardly talk to Finn at all these days, and even then it's only when I absolutely have to. I've sold out as far as they're all concerned. If Finn says I'm out, then the others wouldn't dare talk to me at all, and Finn has made it perfectly clear that I'm no longer one of them. Finn's up to something, I know it. Well, there's nothing we can do about it now. Just play along and I'm sure it'll be fine. They'll soon go away. Theo can handle it for as much as he blusters, said Drew. Something smells very bad about all of this. It's not right. I don't like this at all. Finn and his entourage were catching up, which put an end to their discussion. Once inside the archives, Finn had been taking an overtly lively interest in absolutely everything, even in the bare corridors and the scaffolding, but the others just shuffled along with their heads down and their hands in their pockets. They were obviously there under sufferance. The requirement was for them simply to be there in body only. Their minds were free to be elsewhere. They were protesting their disinterest by making full use of what rights of absenteeism were available to them as far as they were able, and weren't even pretending to be remotely interested. Nevertheless, Drew told them of the conservation work that was going on and explained how the art was stored. He described the importance of artists such as Constable and Turner in the canon of British art history and showed them some of the pieces which he was stowing away for safety. As he photographed the cloud study he had particularly come for, he talked about the magical combination of scientific accuracy and artistic expression that the sketch combined. Finn became animated and exclaimed loudly at everything he saw and heard, which was disconcerting to everybody else in the room, even his chosen companions. Drew was now certain that Finn's enthusiasm was intended to provoke Scott and insult his newfound passion and change of lifestyle. He could only presume that the others were in attendance to reinforce the insult by imposing and looming over Scott's shoulder to show him that he wasn't free of them yet. Poor Scott, he was in for a bumpy ride whichever way he looked at things. Drew escorted the informal tour back to reception. He quietly arranged transport for Scott and his mum so as to be ready for the WI meeting that evening, and ran over Scott's responsibilities as assistant. After that there was nothing more that he could do, so he bade his farewells and left Scott to his fate. For the full book of Artful Designs, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.